Hello everyone. Today we're gonna have one of our ex-clients that went to a trip to Guadalupe, and he's gonna talk about his experience. Please feel free to ask any questions as always. Yeah, let's invite him.
Hello.
Hello. I see you have the Nautilus cap.
Yes, yeah, I got that on the trip last year.
That's good. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good too. How is quarantine treating you?
It's been pretty good. I've actually been working since then, but it's taking care of being safe. And how about you?
Yeah, I'm just doing some home office and can wait to go back into the ocean. This
Yeah,
happens soon.
I'm really hoping it opens up soon. That'd be great.
Yeah. So you went to the Nautilus trip to Guadalupe. When was that?
It was July of last year.
July last year.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Oh, it was like nothing I've ever expected before. Like, is you get an idea in your head of what you're going to be doing. You start to do a little bit of research. You learn a little bit about the trips. You see the videos of other people. You watch the Nautilus videos where they show like just the excitement of the people, and then it is just 100 times that when you first do it. Like when you get there and you get on the trip in the boat and Nautilus, they greet you, they prepare you for the boat trip out to the island. The hospitality that you get when you're on your trip, you're still in this excitement mode, but you still don't know. It's when you get there and you arrive. We like how our trip went was we arrived in I think it was at the Nautilus boat. I can't remember what time of the day it was, but we had a delay. I think it was evening. We had a delay because a couple of our passengers had wrong documentation. So they had it fixed. It was fixed very quickly, and when we left at a time where we were sleeping. So we woke up at our location, and we were waking up just as we pulled in, and the sun was rising. So it was like we didn't miss a dive. We didn't miss nothing. Nautilus just kept us on target and kept us going, even with the little mistake that happened. But the excitement of when you wake up and you're actually at the island and you get that sunrise, it compounds. And the first thing you want to do is just get in the water. And it was just after that happened, it was, oh my God, it was going in the water the first time. It was within the first dive, so it was pretty early. I went in, was a little nervous, a little excited. I hadn't gone scuba diving in a while, but it was just getting used to the equipment, breathing underwater again, just getting comfortable. And nothing happened. I was just like, nothing's happening. Oh my goodness. And it felt like forever. That was like 5 minutes. And then I turned around and I went to go up just to see if everything was going okay. And then somebody called, "Shark!" I turned around, I went right back in the water. I turned around and there he was. I shared the video just before this one on my Instagram if people want to see it. And that was one of the first sharks I actually saw come across. And he just, like, you forget to breathe. you're under the water and you're looking at this magnificent specimen, and you're so close to it, and the feeling you get is it's like you wonder, excitement, joy, and just like it's just undescribable of what you can call it. And I never wanted to leave the water after that.
You felt a little bit like scared or something? Like I know some people before, like when they're like, oh yeah, sharks, and then when they're like there, they're still feeling they do it, but they're feeling a little bit like, oh, scared or something. Did you had that sensation, or were you like going for it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was the excitement took over any fear I might have had. You see right away, like the equipment that you're dealing with was very safe. The I hadn't scuba dived in a little while. My biggest fear was getting used to using the equipment going underwater. Working with the dive masters, they eliminated that fear. So my number one fear was already gone. So the excitement of seeing these great whites was paramount, and it just took over any ounce of fear I had. I might have been a little nervous when I went to the submersible cage. That one going down, I did have a little bit of fear on that one, because when you go down there, it's a different world, right? You go down to your immediate cage is like right in the back, and you're right there. You can get on the boat in 2 seconds. When you lower down to the submersibles, you go into a different world, and it feels like a different world. And the action down there, there's just so many sharks, and it's just seeing the sharks above you, below you, beside you, just everywhere. That was when the only time fear kicked in a little bit. But I was with Lowell, the dive master at the time. I think it was first mate. Well, he took care of me. Like he saw I was a little nervous, but he calmed me down and really took care of me. So, and once you got past that, it was just all fair game for fun and just wonder.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. And what about, besides like the great white shark, the landscape? Tell people about the landscape.
Oh, it was absolutely stunning being surrounded by the island and still having the ocean at your back, and the weather was perfect. It was so beautiful. The sunsets and the sunrises. You look at my Instagram page and you'll see lots of sunrises and sunsets from my hometown here. But I was blown away by how beautiful it was there, and the water was so clean. The island itself was just magnificent. It's bigger than I thought it was when you get there and you just see the sizes of the cliffs. Is gorgeous, and the wildlife with the birds and the seals and just everything was just magnificent.
Do you see any of the big sharks like Lucy or Deep Blue?
No, I don't. We didn't see Deep Blue or Lucy. We had a little segment with the dive masters, and we went over some of the sharks that people have identified, and there was a couple. I think people pointed out that have been there before. I think the biggest shark we saw was about, I want to say 14 to 16 feet, if I remember correctly. It's really hard to get the size of the sharks when you're there, because you just see this. They could be 7 feet long, and you're like, that's the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I think one of the dive masters pointed out one of the larger ones was about 14 feet, I think.
14 feet, yeah.
Yeah.
That's big. That's big.
That's a big shark.
So how many did you see at a time?
I think the most I saw at once there was 6 sharks, and that's when we were in the submersible. Oh. Yeah, when we were at the top cages, we get like 2 or 3 on a regular basis. Sometimes 3 or 4 if they were really curious about what we were doing. But the day I think it was the second day we went down at the submersible. I remember I was, or no, it was the first day. That's right. It's kind of a funny story, because I was just still nervous with the gear in my mouth and being so far down in the water. I was excited, and I was looking at a shark, and he was just kind of coming over this way, and then I saw it at the corner of my eye, another one's coming this way, and I was looking, and I went to everybody in the submersible that was with me. I actually called out shark underwater. I sucked in a little bit of water, but Lowell helped me like really quickly, so the dive master overcame my excitement and got me safe with the regulator. But then all of a sudden you saw there was a shark there was a shark up there was the 2 that were going this way, and there was 1 coming from down there. And being surrounded by that and seeing that, you're in awe. Like you just can't explain until you physically are around that, how big and exciting that really was.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
And it's like a different behavior that the sharks have here in Guadalupe than somewhere else. Like you normally, when a shark is bigger than the other one, the smaller ones, they normally live, and then you only have 1 shark. That's
right.
Normally the behavior of the white sharks. But here in Guadalupe, we have seen that kind of behavior when you see maybe 3 or 6 sharks at the same time. So Yeah, it's an amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing that many just kind of like they just seem really curious about what we're doing. They want to know what's happening. They come up close, they kind of take a little peek, but they never feel threatening to me. So I mean, I wouldn't want to be out of the cage, but they definitely never felt threatening where they wanted to really get at us. They just seemed really curious about us them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Was this your first time that you see a white shark?
Yes, yeah, this is the very first time. I've seen some really minor wildlife in the ocean here in Vancouver, just some seals, lots of fish, but I've never like nothing bigger than a seal. So when I saw the shark, that was a pretty good introduction to what you guys do.
So this was correct. This was the first time that you see a shark, like any type of shark, or you see another?
No, we had some very small sharks in our local aquarium when I was a kid, and that was the only time I've ever seen a shark. I've never seen fins. I've been in Hawaii when sharks have been reported, but I've never seen one. So it was seeing that a live shark in that setting was a very first for me. I consider it the first time I ever seen a shark because the ones I saw in the aquarium when I was a kid, they were like maybe I don't know about that big, very very tiny.
Yeah. We have a question from Jill. How was the bus ride from San Diego to the boat?
Oh, it was quicker than I thought it was going to be. It was very very smooth. Uh, there was you get the like when you get there you get an introduction from San Diego where we departed from. We meet all the guests that are coming with us. We meet a lot of the staff. The staff are so hospitable. They make us feel very welcomed, and you get comfortable to explain to how the trip's going to work, going through the border, getting to the final location, and then you sit back and it was a smooth ride and got to see some. We traveled by the I think it was by daytime, so we got to see a little bit of light and a little bit of the countryside, which was really cool. That was really neat to see.
Mm, that's nice. And once you get to, so you drive from San Diego to Ensenada, right?
Yeah.
And then that same day you jump in the boat, or the next day?
Yeah, well, we arrived in Ensenada in a little bit in the evening because we had to make a stop to pick up one of our friends who flew straight to Tijuana. She was traveling through another location, so she came separately and met us there, and we picked up her and a couple of the other guests at a hotel, and then we went from there. So that delayed a little bit. Then we got to Ensenada, where we had to delay with the paperwork with those two guests, and then we waited for them to clear out their paperwork, and then we left in mid-afternoon. I can't remember exactly the time we left. It was about light when we left, and then we arrived the next day because it's a long trip on the boat to get to Guadalupe. But when you half of it is sleeping anyways, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you get there in the night and then you just wake up and then that's it. You go and you're
Yeah.
done. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Um, so are you planning to come back to Guadalupe?
Uh, Yes, absolutely. My biggest problem right now is deciding if I want to go to Guadalupe or Socorro because seeing I do have some open water dive experience. So if I were to go to Socorro and see the mantas and the dolphins and the other style sharks they got there, I would get a little bit more refresher. But it sounds like talking with some of the dive masters, it's a very comfortable dive as well. But I could go back to Guadalupe like every time if I could. It's almost a year now since I've been there, and I think about it almost every day. I constantly look at my videos. I constantly look at my pictures, and and we've been in contact with many of the guests that we became friends with on the trip.
Oh, wow.
We got some pretty awesome pictures of the group just hanging out and having a nice dinner. Oh, the food on the ship was unbelievable. It was so good.
So in
It's a,
Socorro, what they do actually is they gather all people's videos and photos, and they do a video at the end of the trip.
Yeah.
Did they do the same in Guadalupe?
They did, yeah, they did. They actually had it prepared before we got off. We got back to Ensenada, so we all got to watch it together, and it was, and seeing footage of everybody's footage plus your own footage get
Yeah.
on that trip, it made it so much more fun to have that as such a beautiful memento to watch it.
Yeah, of course. And I'm gonna ask you this. So why Nautilus? Like from all the companies, like what was Nautilus that dragged your attention?
It was a word of mouth. Just seeing. I mean, I've got some friends who work for Nautilus in Mexico, but it was just never heard about these kind of dives before. I've heard about liveaboard diving, but I've never heard about with the great whites. So Nautilus was just through connections and meeting people and just through word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a question. Did you get seasick on the way there?
No. We were in the lower part of the boat, so we were kind of just under water level. So from what I'm told, when you do that trip, when you're down lower like that, it's a less of a bounce. There might have been one time when I got a little bit sick, but I think it was just I might have just looked at the ceiling at the wrong time while we were moving, and that sometimes triggers if I get motion sickness. But for the most part of the trip, I think there was one time I felt, oh, this is not good. But for all of it, I got used to it right away, and it was comfortable for me. There's a few people that got seasick, but they were a little bit more prone to it, they said, and we got some medication leading up to it and some patches and stuff that we tried, and I think that helped out quite a bit.
Yeah, I think if you're prone to seasickness, any boat you should take something.
Yeah.
So Susie says that you should tell us about the tuna you guys saw.
The first tuna. So there's a couple of tuna stories. It's the tuna. I think are the yellowfin. I think they're yellowfin tuna. There.
And there was there was a tuna and a breach.
Okay. So there was a tuna that was. I've actually got three stories on tuna. The first story is when I first saw my first tuna, and I hadn't seen a shark yet, and I thought it was a shark. It was so big, and it was down so low. The shadow of it made it look massive. So I was like, first, I'm like, shark! It's there! And the tuna comes up and goes through. The second one was when Susie and I were actually in our surface cage, and we were just looking down in a whole school of tuna. There was hundreds and hundreds of them.
Wow.
They were really low, and they were just going under our boat, just going so fast. And it was just seeing the size of these fish. It was incredible to see how many of them travel in their school and just how fast they move. And the sharks just leave them alone. I think, I'm not sure if they know, like, they can't catch them, or if they're just like, nah, we ate last night, we're good. So, but it was good. And the breach, one of the breaches I remember, we were down in the lower cage, in the submersible, and we were looking up, and we saw the shark go up and breach and then come down. And then I think a piece of tuna from somewhere fell off, and it was just going straight down in the water. And as it was going straight down, the shark came out of nowhere about maybe 60 feet below me and just picked it off. Just like, it was unbelievable, like how fast they were, and where they just come out of nowhere. And imagine how many sharks we have up top, how many are further down doing what they do.
Yeah, there's like a lot of hypotheses of what like they're doing in Guadalupe, and some they believe they're like reproducing there because the water is so deep. But
Yeah.
and they see like this scratch on the shark. So, but we can't see that, so we're not sure if that's what they're doing there. We have a question. I think you already mentioned it, but just for the people that just
Sure.
Got connected. What month did you go?
In July of last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it says that someone is going in November. I think it's November, I think you see more big sharks but less sharks, and I think July you see
Right.
smaller sharks but less, not more sharks. Like yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
we to recap if you missed that before, like we saw the most I saw one time was 6 sharks at one time. I know somebody said that they saw 8 on our trip, I think it was. We actually formed a group together on Facebook, and we just still hang out and talk about it. But one of them on there, I think they saw 8 at one time, was the most they saw while they were down there. And it was just they were up at the surface cage, and they saw like 3 or 4 up there. Then they saw the ones down below, and you're like your head's on a swivel all the time, looking to see what new visitor you have.
We have another question. Tell us your best experience in the cage.
Oh, okay. My best experience in the cage. My best experience in the cage. There's so many to pick one out. Can I tell 2? Can I tell 2? Okay, then. Okay, so the first experience was that actual breach that we talked about when we were down below. When you see the shark come up, and this is the surface of the water, and the shark's coming up, and he sees what he wants, and he's going, and she just went straight up, right to maybe about this much of her tail was not out of the water, and to see that from underground, it was just, or underwater, like that low, it was so incredible to see the power, speed, and grace of how that big lady just did what she did. But one of our friends actually got it on video, so we could take our time to see it and watch it. And the second really most incredible experience, I was actually by myself. It was first thing in the morning, and I got up really early, and I went straight to the cages. And I went into the surface cage, and I was sitting down in the surface cage, and it's a really great husband because my wife, or video, because my wife's she was on the boat at the time. I was in the water, and I was just by myself looking around. There was nothing happening. Like, it was absolutely nothing. And I was like, okay, so I'm down there for about 8-10 minutes. Nothing's happening. I was like, okay, I'm going to go up, have a coffee, and come back down. So I started to climb out of the cage, and as soon as I got about chest out, Lowell just screamed out as loud as he could. First mate goes, "Matt, shark behind you!" And I just threw my arms in, went right back down, turned around just as he came at me. And he really wanted to see what I was doing, so he was coming up. And when he came up, he spun so quick, the wave from his tail shook the whole cage, because his power of his turn just shook the whole cage. And I just had to just brace myself for anything that was going to happen. And the video is great because my wife goes, "I think my husband's in there." It was just magnificent to feel the power of how they move to come through, and just like it shook the cage, it shook me, it shook the boat. It was fantastic. It was just so great.
That just shows you how strong those animals are.
Yeah, and how quick too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you see any breach from outside the water?
Yes. Yeah, I got some really great slow motion breaches coming out of the water. And then the best breach we saw out of the water was one of we were all standing there, and it was really strange because everybody in our party that was on that boat always had their cameras rolling. We always had a camera rolling. And the one time that we didn't, nobody had, it was the best surface breach that we saw above. That shark came right out, a little bit of tail still in the water. Just we saw full body. Everybody froze. We couldn't even go for our cameras. We just watched, and she just came down and went right back in the water. It was
Wow.
Incredible, so incredible.
Mm-hmm. What's the dynamic when you are in the boat? Like, what's the dynamic in what time did you get in the water? How long can you be, or how do you organize in the boat?
Okay, yeah. So they have scheduling for the surface cage and for the submersible. The submersible is more of a direct scheduling. Like, you start at a certain time of the day, and then you have, I think it was 35 to 40 segments where you go down in the submersible. So 4 divers and a dive master, and you go down and you sit in the submersible for about 45 minutes, and you come back up a scheduled time. So they assign your name. If you're traveling with people, they set it up so you can go with them, or if you just want to meet with people and go with other people as well, they'll schedule that. For the surface cages, it was really cool to see because it's kind of a first come first serve in the morning, and then everybody they knew how long they were in, and they would go in for 15, 20, sometimes half an hour, and then they knew they would switch with other people, and it was constant rotation. And from the very first day of diving we were there, everybody got into a rhythm and schedule for the surface cages, so we constantly all had fair time going in the water, and then being able to rest, have something to eat, have a drink, some water and hot cocoa, and just go back in again when you had your time. It was really, really nice to see everybody was just working together to give as much time as possible.
Okay, so that's you decide how long you're gonna be in the water.
Not in the submersible, but yeah, it was recommended how long you should stay in the surface cages. But we all just kind of got in a rhythm of how we were all doing it, so we got equal time, and pretty much it was balanced really nice.
So which one did you prefer, the submergible or the surface cage?
I don't even want to compare the two because it's such a different experience. I recommend doing both. I highly recommend doing both because when you go into the submersible and you're that far down, it's a completely different experience from what you're getting up there. The sharks come close to you, but you just see the silhouette of the boat up top. You see the surface cages. You see just silhouettes of sharks and tuna and everything all over you. And then you get some up close experiences. But you don't feel isolated, but you're down so far that you're like, wow, this is really a unique experience when you go into the submersible. Like it's really unique. The surface was just it's a different experience in how close the action of the sharks get, how close you can get to talk to people afterwards and just go over your experiences and how exciting it is. But I don't want to say one is better than the other because I just had such different experiences and feelings of both.
And Jen is asking, how is the food on board?
Had the food on board?
Yes.
Oh, the food on board was fantastic, and I actually I have an allergy to bell peppers, capsicum, and the chefs constantly had a separate meal for me if capsicum was in one of the other menu items. They always, like, you let them know. I let them know my allergies, and they constantly always had something separate for me if they had what I was allergic to and something. Never had to ask for it. It was just it was really good. And the food itself, my goodness, it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
especially taco night was amazing.
Yeah, it's so good. And if anyone has any allergies or like even if you don't like it, they actually do something. If you're vegan, vegetarian, whatever, they do anything. So food is not a problem.
We had some celiac people as well that were on there, gluten free, and they had a special items for them as well. So they'll accommodate absolutely any type of dietary needs. I found it was fantastic.
Yeah. So Kip is asking, what was the depth of the submersibles?
The depth of the submersibles, I think we were at
10 meters?
I know, I think it was a little bit more like it, because 10 meters is about 25 feet. I think it was about 35 feet. So whatever that is in meters, I'm not sure, but it was about 35, 40 feet, I think, if I remember correctly. We actually have we had a really great picture of the other submersible from our side, so you could see the boat and just how far it came down, so you get an idea of it. And you'd have to go back to last year for my Instagram photos for that, but they were there.
Yeah. Jen is asking, how was the visibility?
It was clear, so clear. It was. I remember like like every once in a while that you get a little bit of like quite a lot of fish that are just floating around your cages on the surface cages, but those fish cleared out when the sharks came in, and the water was it was so blue. It's just I've never seen blue water like that before, and warm. It was so nice.
It was
By
warm.
the Yeah, by the end of the trip, I was in the surface cages with just my weights on. So I was able to. The water was so warm.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to be comfortable. Yeah, I think compared to other places in the world where you can see the white sharks, the good thing about Guadalupe is the visibility. Like
Hmm.
people that I have heard they go to Africa, for example, they say like in Africa you don't see the shark until it's like right on the cliff.
Yeah.
So here you can actually see him coming, right?
Yeah. Like out here in Vancouver, you can go scuba diving in the ocean as well. It is really cold. I'd recommend the dry suit for that. But it's really murky and dark in here. So like when something's coming at you, like the one time I saw the seal, it was there was nothing and then there was a seal. But that water was just it was like glass. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. You guys have to come and experience this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend.
This, to see it live, you can watch all the videos you want. You can hear all the stories you want, but the experience you're going to get is when you go live and when
Yeah.
you're in that water and you see your very first shark. It is like nothing you'll ever experience.
Can you tell to those people that maybe are a little bit afraid of seeing the white shark, like how is such a like amazing animal? And I don't know, for me seeing sharks just makes me feel good. Just I don't feel any scared. Like it's a
No.
peaceful, for me it's a peaceful animal, but I know there's still this thing of sharks being scary. And can you tell from your experience what's the feeling?
Yeah, I'm not the smartest guy in the world because leading up to my trip, I started watching Jaws and I started watching Deep Blue Sea and I was watching 47 Meters Down and I was watching all these really stupid shark movies to get excited for the trip. So it wasn't. So you get a little nervous thinking about it. Well, like how Hollywood deems a shark, right?
Yeah.
Like the Hollywood and our own social media, just how we make sharks look and act. Uh, until you get there, and then when you see it, you go down, and you're amazed by just how peaceful and curious they are. They'll get a little bit they'll get a little bit rambunctious at times, but not in the sense of they're trying to they want to eat you or attack you. They're just like they want to see you, they want to check you out, but they'll come within like 2 feet of you, and your cage is so strong and so safe that they'll just look at you and just keep going and just so peaceful. Their teeth are big, and don't get me wrong, their teeth are big, but they never once aggressively went after us or anything.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I have some people here saying that it's life changing. And I think that like when you're scared of heights or something, you have to go and experience, and then you might not be scared of that anymore. So anyone that is a little bit scared, I totally recommend it because this is like the safest place to do
Yeah.
it. And nothing is gonna happen.
Two of the most extreme things I've done in my life is skydiving and this. And I remember with skydiving, I went out and I was nervous jumping out of that plane. It was a static line, so it pulls from the plane as soon as you leave, but you're on your own, and you're going down. And I was nervous. I hit the ground. I never wanted to go back up, not because I was afraid or it was super exciting. It wasn't one of those things that caught me. When I went underwater with those sharks, getting over that excitement, it was just like something I just kept doing over and over and over again, and it was magical.
Yeah, yeah. And these trips helps a lot to get rid of that idea of people have. My dad just wrote frogs. I'm scared of frogs. So he just like go and touch a frog, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. I should. I should. I'm talking about fears, and I should. But yeah, it's just like you guys coming to the trips to Guadalupe. It actually helps to get rid of this image that people have about sharks and actually protecting the sharks. Which right now we are a little bit scared because there are no trips going on, for example, to Socorro. So we are scared that there are some illegal fishing going on. So
Yeah.
by you guys coming to our trips, it helps to this industry to grow and protect those animals that the only people that can protect those animals, like it's us, the people that go to these trips and supports the industry. So yeah.
A lot of and what's really beautiful about the trips as well, you have so many experts that worked with Nautilus on our trip, that we got an education about sharks as well, and some of their behaviors and some of their habits of when they feed, and just how they have there's their areas where they hang out. It was really neat, and you kind of you get overstimulated by seeing the sharks. You forget some of the education, but they really do make an effort to teach you about that. So it was really great.
From the sharks that you see, do you get the names? Do you remember the names?
I think there was a moment where we were all gathering, we were going over some of the pictures, and we were trying to identify them. But I think there was one. No, I don't remember any of the names of the sharks. We kept looking for the real famous ones, but we didn't see those. So I don't know if these were returning sharks first, because they had a book with all the names of the pictures of the sharks that they could see, so you can try to identify them. But I didn't get any names.
Yeah, because that's the other interesting thing of the part, like of the trip. Like if you go and see a shark and then you come back maybe a year later, you might be lucky and you can, like, if you have a picture and you recognize the name, then you might be able to see it next year, and you have a catalog and you can see, oh, this is the same shark that I saw last year. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, when I do it again, because I will do it again, I think what I'd do is on my trip over, I would look through the records that they have on board, so I could start look for identifying marks on the sharks and the names, and just seeing, because it'd be interesting to see if these are just constantly returning sharks for that area.
I know like a few are, but like they might be seeing them maybe a few trips and then they don't see them in a few years. So it's kind of like they're not sure if the population is increasing. We know that it's not decreasing, but it's hard to know because like years ago they didn't have this data of the sharks. So there's not been that much time that they've been recording these sharks. So they know their earnings is not decreasing because the same amount, but they know some sharks, they don't come back. They don't know if they're dead or what happened to them. So yeah. We have someone says Lucy's always there.
Yeah, I saw. I can't remember if we saw her, but I know they did say that there was some returning sharks from other trips, but I just can't remember the names.
Yeah. Did you see any, besides the tuna, did you see any other animal?
We saw some seals. I can't believe how brave those seals are, because they would come close to the boat, and you could see them just sticking their heads out, and they're watching us, they're checking things out. I think they're waiting for opportunity, but they lined the entire beaches of Guadalupe, the island itself, when we were anchored. You could just see them, just so many of them. We did actually, on our way, we saw a blue whale. So what happened with that was we were on our way to Guadalupe, and me and one of the guys that I met there, Blair, we were standing on top. We were just talking and just getting to know each other and learn about what we were going to do. And then all of a sudden, just out of the corner of our eyes, we saw the blue whale. It didn't breach the water; it just came out, and you could see the size of the top of the blue whale was bigger than our ship. So it came out and then it went right back in, and then the first mate, Lowell, he came out and goes, "You see that blue whale?" We're like, "Yeah, we saw it." It was dolphins along the way, quite a lot of dolphins. We got some good video and pictures of those, but that was the main other sea life we saw.
Wow, blue whale.
Yeah, that was, I can't even believe I forgot about that, because it was on the way. It was just like, it was maybe 3 seconds of just coming up and then going back down, and then I spent about 4 hours just staring out looking for anything.
Wow. That's the beauty of Guadalupe as well. Like, it's not only like the shark, it's like the whole package, right? Yeah. The trip, the landscape. Like, if you're lucky, you can see some humpback whales. I know in some trips it's not that common, but they have seen the humpback whales. They have seen some orcas. So it's kind of like like Baja California is just, it's an amazing
Yeah.
place, and you can see a lot of variety of animals. So yeah, if you're lucky, you might be able to see a blue whale or
Yeah, it was massive, but it was I think the excitement passed for it because it was just we only saw like the top of it, so it was super exciting when we saw that, but we wanted more. So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, then you have to come back and go to
that's
the
right.
to see it. Yeah. Well, I don't think we have any more questions. So, anything you want to add, Matt?
If you are on the fence about this, about a trip like this, you just have to do it. It's a once in a lifetime experience. It's you want to call it a bucket list experience. Do it as a bucket list. You will never regret doing this trip. The experience you have with meeting new people is with the people you go with are memories that you're going to just have for your entire life. We went with I think we were a full boat. We all became Facebook friends, and I think I'm still friends with probably 90% of them that was on that trip. So the experiences that we shared together and lived through was it'll never leave me. Like it just you'll never do anything else like it. It's do it. Just do it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for this.
You're welcome.
We hope seeing you in Socorro.
Okay.
Or you can do the combo trip. It's Socorro, and I think we do some like Cedros and other parts, and then you go to Guadalupe. No, I think it's Guadalupe, some areas, and then you do Socorro. So
all on one trip?
Yeah.
You can do that all?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm going to look in for that one because that's I think. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everybody. Bye bye.